So let's talk about this news poll and start to break it down, because it was fascinating to see. We know cost of living, number one issue, but what is the biggest component of cost of living? Now, it's housing, all right? It's rents. I've shown you there the median rates and how they have gone up by bigger than national average, almost 20% in places like Perth. We've shown you about the long lines of queues for rental properties because they bring in more than 1 million people on top of everyone who was looking for a rental property a couple of years ago. And of course, the national average monthly repayment, which used to be $2,000 and a bit, is now $4,000 and a bit. Now, Freya, none of this is a surprise to you, but it really is quite interesting to see that while the Prime Minister, and we'll get onto it in a second, wants to talk about supermarkets and groceries, when we're talking about cost of living, 12 interest rate rises has a consequence. And guess what? They know the government is kind of responsible.
It's refreshing to see, to be honest, because I think for a long time we saw the RBA starting to hike rates, but it was like, when are people going to realise? When are they going to wake up and realise this is actually the result of reckless Labor spending? And I think now when your hip pocket is affected, and keep in mind, it's not just challenging to rent, it's virtually impossible.
Correct.
And it's not just challenging to repay your mortgage, it is almost virtually impossible as well. The interest you're paying on your mortgages has probably tripled over the last 2 years.
And if you don't mind me saying, for people like yourself that are trying to get in and around the market, the set of financial difficulties and the loans and the housing stock and who you're competing with means we're kind of back to the 90s in terms of how steep that thing is. It's not 17%, but
Correct.
It's quite a steep climb.
And the question is now, and I think this is going to be really critical for the coalition going forward, is those people that have abandoned Labor, where are they going?
They're up for grabs. Good.
And so this is the challenge. I think we're seeing Labor's primary vote decline to the same level it was at the 2022 federal election. But those votes aren't necessarily going to the coalition yet.
Correct.
They're going to the Greens and the Independents. So I think a matter of absolute priority for Matt and the coalition team up there is to come up with a housing policy ASAP.
So, Matt, I'm not going to push you for what it is or what your idea is, because I'm not interested in giving the free kick to, the Guardian to say, oh, freewheeling and now it's being denied. I don't care, right? But how important is it that people in and around who want to see some votes change here don't just rely on people being peed off with the government. They've got to see that there's another option than the government.
Well, you're absolutely right, Paul. And look, I was out door knocking this afternoon in Nerang with our LNP state candidate Bianca Stone and Heather. I met a lady called Heather, and she can't find a place to live. She's having to stay with a friend right now. There simply isn't enough homes in Australia. Freya's exactly right. The reason there isn't enough homes is that this government has lost control of our borders. They came into office with the job of opening up after COVID. They just opened the floodgates, and we've now had 2 million people turn up in 2 years in gross terms, 1 million people in net terms. That rate of migration is more than double what we presided over when we were in government. I'm not including the COVID years, obviously taking those out, just the non-COVID years that we were in government. About 225,000 people a year would come in net terms. It's now around 500,000 for the last 2 years. It's ridiculous. And now Anthony Albanese is saying, I'm going to reduce it. I'm going to reduce it down to 250,000, which is still 25,000 more than average. Peter Dutton's saying, let's take it below 200,000. Let's get back. Let's catch up a bit. Let's make sure that our people aren't living in tents before we take in record numbers of people, still above average numbers of people, like this Albanese government wants to do. We've got to look after Australians first.
And let's also start to front load no foreign buyers for a couple of years. This is, again, just for those that are in and around that market, thinking about it for their kids, etc., the no foreign buyers stuff, which of course is racist and horrible and all of that business according to lefty law and the rest of them, it's good. I love you just mentioned Nerang, again, favourite indoor go-karting circuit in Australia's there, Slideways, go to Spencer Road, I think it is, Spencer Road, go and check it out there, you've got to pay for the licence.
I haven't done that one.
Mate, you go up, you go under, you go round, it is...
I'm going to spend some time with you on the Gold Coast one time, Paul, we'll have a blast.
Tell you, watch out, Tom Tate. If I ever turn up, I'm running and I will be the mayor. All right? There's no question, all right? They'll call me a blow-in, but in my heart, it never leaves.
No, mate, this is your spiritual home. Your spiritual home is here.
Bloody oath, could somebody tell my missus? Somebody tell my missus. All right. Otherwise, divorce straight away. Anyway, now, Joke, darling. Now, let's talk here about the supermarkets, because, Freya, I think the government got a little bit of a rhetorical win here, because we saw it today. The Prime Minister basically trying to pretend, supermarkets and groceries is the reason why interest rates are so high. Garbage. I've already listed the basket of goods that actually go in to all of that. And last time I checked, Coles and Woolies not involved in housing, not involved in transport, not involved in insurance. Let alone, of course, tobacco, which the government is involved in, and they keep putting up the taxes. But whatever, all right? But the question here is that if you're able to have an allegation of a certain bad behaviour in and around pricing, then the evil moustache is able to be shoved straight onto them, and Labor will do that as what they think is the chief example of cost of living. But that poll showed us that that's only true for a quarter of people who say cost of living is the number one issue.
Labor will find absolutely anyone and anything to blame other than themselves.
Correct.
2 weeks ago, it was the RBA. It was all the RBA's fault, the cost of living, the interest rates, all the RBA's problem. Now they've managed to find another scapegoat, the supermarkets. Now, don't get me wrong, some of the discounting stuff they're doing looks pretty dodgy, and it's not fair. They should be brought to justice. But come on, it is just searching for scapegoats. But it gets even more ridiculous than that. The New South Wales Treasurer, Daniel Mookhey, has also tried to blame Donald Trump's re-election on the state of the New South Wales economy.
Yes.
It's honestly, it's like, okay, let's just find some imaginary issue, and that is going to be the thing. Anything to distract Australia from the fact that they're spending an extra $315 billion.
The cost of rocket fuel in the place clock. That's the reason. That's the reason it's going up. All right.